All right, everybody, welcome back to our Training Day podcast. I got the one and only, the man, the myth, the legend, the number one producer in Family First Life history. 6,300 families helped lifetime in the matter of 4 years or five, Steve? 5 years. 5 years. That's a breakneck speed. And just eclipsed 2023, 1,500 families plus for the first time ever. So you're getting better with time, sir, and your all-time numbers are blinding. Steven Giordano, my man. How you doing, brother?
I'm great. I got to stop raising the bar. It's getting tiring.
Yeah, right? You're raising the bar for you and everybody else. I remember the first year that people were over 1,000 families. It was like 2 people, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so now you might have 7, 8.
Yeah, you might have maybe close to 10.
Jeez. Yeah, that's definitely raising the bar. Listen, that makes you officially a otherworldly game changer. You lifted and you're continuing to lift the ceiling of what can be done, and believe, and that you're doing it for you and your family, but it's transferring to other people, and they're taking that confidence and saying, why not me? And so that is in and of itself just remarkable. And so congratulations to you for another amazing year. Number one agent in the country, even in 2023. So continue to set the pace. Sick work ethic. I need people to understand the kind of work and the torque that it takes to do this kind of production, but also the fact that if you're willing to work this hard, you can have a shot at great numbers too. So, Steve, talk to us. We always talk about your work ethic. We always talk about, your ability to pace the year. You probably pace the year better than anybody. I mean, because the last couple years, 1,300, 1,400 families, and then 1,500 families. So your ability to lock in calendar months and understand what your goals are and making sure you have X numbers done by X numbers time is better than everybody else's. And so there are people looking to do that at a smaller scale than you, but they want to do it so that they can have the same understanding. And maybe they don't know how to do it as well as you. Break down from a base standpoint. We haven't had you on in the podcast in a while. Break down from a base standpoint how you're setting yourself up to visualize your goals, see through your goals, and eclipse your goals.
I think the biggest thing for people that they need to understand is just the scheduling. I think being organized in your schedule, just in life in general, it's really the answer to how you're going to be able to put up numbers and then obviously balance home life, having an agency, integrity now, like all of those things. And I feel like every year they're always throwing another thing onto the balancing act that I have to balance now and try and, maneuver. But I think that's the most, probably the thing that people don't think about as much as they should is just the schedule. Because when you break stuff down, like if you're willing to buy leads and you're willing to kind of follow that structure, and then you're willing to kind of go, like, to me, the hybrid route, because to me, that's really the answer to in writing more, right? You're able to meet people and have multiple licenses in different states and sell them virtually, phone and Zoom, whatever. Mm-hmm. But that schedule, it's got to be just so ironclad and locked in. And then in the schedule, it's got to be almost like a minute by minute. Like I do not, or at least I try not to, I try to not waste a minute in the day. And I try to earn stuff in my day where, like, if I don't make a few sales, like I got to go figure something out. I got to like go call some more people, door knock some more people, call referrals, whatever. I earn some stuff for myself. And when you combine all that stuff, the schedule, what you're giving it, the amount of time you're giving it, and the stuff that you're giving up to get it, you can really, the sky's really the limit as to what you can achieve here, and I think you're seeing that, and it's honoring, humbling when you see other people that reach out to you and they're like, hey, like, look, I was at about 700, 800, like, how do I go to the 1,000? Like, what are the little tweaks that I got to do? So it's humbling when people kind of reach out and ask you that, and now you can see, hey, 10 people did it now, and next year it'll be 20, and then it'll just, it'll kind of multiply from there.
Nuts. And so I love what you're saying about schedule, because isn't it so important? Like time. So what you're doing is you're maximizing time better than everyone else. And so when you say minute by minute, I'm learning. Like that makes sense to me, because how else can you do this? You know what I'm saying? You're actually looking at the minutes and seeing the value in the minutes, which everyone should be doing that. And so the efficiency that has created, or that continues to create over time, I'm assuming, Gio, you're getting more efficient every year too, just by practicing the art of managing minutes. Yes.
Yeah, and like I said, with the virtual game now, like I'll be honest, I am a in-home being, and I'm best in home. But when I can sprinkle in call transfers, Zoom, other states, sending your license all over the place, talk about efficiency. I can now go into the field days having written a couple policies, and that just makes it almost takes a little bit of the edge off, because now you started at a good place. You go Monday, you sell a few, boom, I go into Tuesday, I got a full day Tuesday, and now you just start that multiplication. And then the other thing that I think a lot of people take for granted, when you're in the insurance industry, for now, I'm going into year 6,
Mm-hmm.
the book of business, the connections with people,
Mm.
the, hey, I didn't do a good job in year 1, and I can call you now, and, oh, we didn't get one for your wife, we can get one for your kids. IULs are such a huge thing now.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much more at your disposal than I had in year 1.
Right.
And so now when you start adding all those things in, it's like, because I almost felt like this year, like I knew I was working hard and I was writing, but I didn't think, you almost felt like, all right, like I don't feel like I'm writing more, in a sense. You just kind of felt like, oh, well, things are doing what they're doing.
Right.
But you had that multiplication of like all these people and all these things. And that's where, when we talk about buying leads, like the lead isn't just the lead for like the day 1 that you called it and you sold it. That is your client.
Right.
That you can now multiply business off of and sell more to, which can help you as time goes on.
Yeah. And so really dialing in that efficiency, which I think very early off into this podcast, we're already establishing that these are major keys to sustainable long-term success. Talking to Steve Giordano, president of Family First Health and Wealth, new integrity partner. You received the great honor, Steve, of becoming an integrity partner in 2023, which is a big deal. Integrity is a major player in the space and has just, taken a conglomerate and bringing in sharp, dynamic young people like yourself and just bringing them into this web of greatness. What was that honor and experience like for you and your family?
Well, was incredible. There was a long time coming where you felt like, okay, we're doing some good things, team's growing. You got, obviously you're personally producing, like you're doing a lot of good things. And like, you wanted that stamp of like, hey, we want to partner with you. We want to work with you. And what's really cool about integrity is the rocket ship on the back of your business. Your business is going well and it's growing, and they're acknowledging you for that. And then they just say, hey, we're going to throw this rocket ship on you, and we're going to give you all of these things that are going to help you and the entire company grow. And the things that they do technology wise, lead center, the trainings, all the different things, the connections with other people outside of FFL
Mm-hmm.
that are, so impactful in all different spaces of insurance, Medicare, all different things. That for me was so huge. And you really feel, and I know you probably agree with me, you feel like you're working at Amazon before it became Amazon, and you're working at Apple before it became Apple.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah,
just,
totally.
they haven't even scratched the surface yet they're so massive. It's kind of like the way you look at FFL. We haven't scratched the surface, but we're so huge and we're the number one in the space.
Right.
So bar none, biggest blessing ever, and really
Wow.
just looking forward to what it's going to be able to do for our team.
Yeah, that's very well said. And you're a huge ambassador with the production that you have. I mean, I saw your podcast with Brian Adams, and he's blown up. Brian Adams, the president of Integrity, CEO of Integrity, is blown away by your production, and so that's one of the highest honors from one of the highest people, and so it just speaks volumes to know what you've done with your career and how you've worked hard for your name and you've worked hard for your family, and it's amazing. Now you have an awesome team of people, some agents that you're working with, agency managers that you're working with, and you're trying to help them see the vision, see the value. When you look at your agency, when you look at health and wealth, and you look at the people inside of it and the people that are still to come, how are you viewing that these days? What are you looking at scaling in 2024? How are you viewing this entire form of agency building and giving back?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think this business, like, it literally evolves. I mean, you could say minute by minute, but for sure it evolves yearly. And it's one of those things, like, I feel like the ones that really do well, they evolve sooner than it evolves, if that makes sense. So one of the things that we've done, like Tier is a good example, and a couple others on our team, is, the IUL volume has been huge for us. Different IUL type leads that obviously FFL has now, and then you can get just in general. So I think the IUL game has helped for big volume, and I think we've found better ways to get people started off quicker. And that's probably something that I feel like I struggled with maybe early on, but I feel like now as a company, I think it's so plug and play. As long as you're willing to work and invest and listen, this is the way to obviously to go and grow. I think that's one of the biggest things for us here is we're finding that niche of people that are looking for bigger volume, and also those people that are writing bigger volume now, they're buying into the growth and what they can then do with that money. So I really feel like this year was it's a good year. It wasn't a great year. It was a good transition year and a groundwork year to what I really feel is going to be a great 2024.
Love it. Now, when you talk about starting people off, right, what's different? What's different from what you're doing now as opposed to what you were doing before?
I think the biggest thing is I'm just being more honest with people. I think when people come in, if you're always trying to sell them the dream and you're not giving them the nuts and bolts and the honesty of, like, hey, yes, here's what you can achieve, but it's going to take this in the way of time, sacrifice, investment, training, listening, etc. I think before, sometimes you're trying to just recruit and you want a body. But I think what we did this year and beyond is we're saying, okay, look, here's what you have to do. These are the non-negotiables to be successful. And if you can't hit any of the non-negotiables, this isn't for you.
Mm.
So I think it's almost walking away from people in a sense, as opposed to saying, hey, let's just get everybody, and then they don't want to do 2 or 3 things that we know it's going to take to be successful. I've kind of learned my lesson. I think a lot of people have, like, hey, they're just not the right fit. And that's fine.
Yeah.
Because you know what? I've had people that weren't the right fit in this one moment, and then 6 months later they came back and they said, hey, like, I took what you said to heart, and I want to now do all these things that you're saying. And then now I want to work with that person. So, I think strategically from recruiting, a lot of stuff more through social media, messaging, Instagram, LinkedIn, trying to talk to people that are just higher level in business. I think for me, one of the big things that I've really honed in on in interviews is teaching you insurance is not the hard part. It's you understanding this is a business and you're starting a business. That is really to me, where it begins. And then, okay, once we understand how the business is going to run financially, now we can get into the nuts and bolts of like how to sell insurance. Like selling insurance is the easy part. Running the business from a dollars and cents, day in, day out, what it takes, time, money, effort, sacrifice. That's the stuff of agents now that I'm getting them on board with first. And it's weeding out people that are just not going to be the right fit.
No doubt. And so running a business successfully involves having capital. Would that be fair?
100%.
Now, how much emphasis do you put on the freedom of capital versus just having capital? Freedom of capital meaning abundance of, like, in other words, like, having flow coming through versus just making sure you have capital. How much emphasis do you put on one or the other?
I'm talking big time on the flow of it and also the resourcefulness of it. So, like, for instance, how many people do we know that are able to go out and get college money? They go to college, they get loans, they find different ways, that are out there to get going into a college education, right? So now let's take that to business. There are so many things out there, and I've done a lot of research, and I continue to, of like, okay, if you have some decent credit and we can leverage your decent credit, we can start LLC, we can get business credit cards, we can look at business loans. And let's face facts, you don't need $1 million to start, your insurance career. This isn't us opening a restaurant, a brick and mortar. How can we get resourceful there? And then I can teach you how, if we have this starting place, what now it's going to take in the first couple months to live in the cash flow. Because that's, to your point, you can throw some money at something, but you can throw some money at something and lose it pretty quick unless you're kind of following all the steps to get your cash flowing to then be paying your business and paying you. And really the middleman of all of that is the work, and in those conversations with people, it's like, okay, look, here's where we're starting from cash, and here's where we want to be in the next 2 to 3 months. And here's the middle ground of what it's going to look like. And sometimes it's not pretty. Helping 1,000 families a year is not glorious and pretty all the time. Like, I'll just be straight with you. I live in Miami. It's not always glorious, but guess what? The people that need your help and need insurance, they're of every walk of life. So I'm trying to kind of instill that in people hey, where can we find some monies to start? And then how can we start to cash flow it and multiply it for you?
Okay, I love it. And so it takes you right back to personal production, right? Because that is the fastest and most liquid way to get flow going. Yes?
100%.
And so we talked about the schedule, and when you think, I want you to explain this a little bit. I don't think we hit on this hard enough. When we think about hybrid or telesales versus in-home, you say you're an in-home guy, but you also say you're a hybrid guy. So how much of your schedule is in-home versus virtual? And then how intentional is that? Like, do you have set days and times that are in-home and set days and times that are virtual throughout the course of a week?
Yeah, I'm definitely like a 90-10 in-home. So basically the way I work it is I've done the same schedule of the dial, Monday, Thursday, run appointments, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. But what I do in the virtual game is, okay, so on Mondays, Thursdays, while I'm dialing, I have call transfers turned on. So now in between when I'm making my calls, let's say I get 5 of them a dial day, and let's say I close 2 of them. So now I've made 4 sales of the week. In addition to me, when I'm going through and dialing to book my appointments, I'm also going through looking at my book of business and I'll make like like on Apple, you have the notes. I'll have the notes up on my computer, and basically it's one of those things. It's like a game for me. My goal is to get through the list. I never get through the list. I have a list the entire year long. I'm always scratching people off and putting people on. And what that means is there might be 20 names on there. Some of them, hey, you got to get with this client. They had a bank issue, whatever. But there's the bulk of those people are, hey, we met with you 2 years ago, a year ago, whatever. And I remember at the time, because when I'm selling, I'm always trying to sell. I'm not the Mr. Let me sell you the most expensive one. I know I sell a lot of big policies, but it's not typically the goal in home. I'm the middle to low guy because, again, I sell in such volume that it doesn't matter to me. I'm going to sell enough of you, so it's fine. So now in between dialing call transfers, I'm going through book of business, seeing where we're at, what you have, can we increase it? We didn't get one for your wife. Let's get an IUL for your kids. And I'm literally in that realm all day, Monday, Thursday. So from a virtual perspective, it's the call transfers and then it's some of those book of business people. I'm not really booking brand new leads unless it's those circumstances like, hey, I'm out of town or I just can't meet with you. Then if I feel like they're, a solid lead and they want it, I'll do it right then and there. One call, close it in a sense, but I'm not doing a ton of those. And then I'm in the field, Tuesday, Wednesday. And sometimes if lead flow is not great in those downtimes, if I didn't book full days, and I'll be honest, there's plenty of times I'm not booking full days the way I did, let's say back in 2020 during the pandemic, just because, lead flow is not obviously what it was. I'll be in the car and I'll turn on call transfers and I'll go back to my notes and I'll be like, oh, cool. I got these 15 people I didn't call. So I'm just basically working those three things. And lo and behold, if you work those three things and you're doing this now, your Monday, your Thursday, and then your days in the field, next thing you know, you wrote 4 call transfers, 4 people from your book of business, 12 new policies of leads. You help 30 families this week. Rinse, wash, repeat.
It just sounds so simple listening to you. And so anybody has the opportunity to turn on live transfers while they're driving, which changes the game. That's the piece that I heard that was like really triggered it up along with the current clients. And so when having a book of business in your face and, reaching out to that book of business on a regular basis to see who's in, who's out, who needs what. I mean, that's just wildly, there's like no waste. So you're from the culinary world, but in the culinary world, you bring in food, like raw food, whatever, and with the hopes to let it run off the menu item or run off banquets. And in the hotel industry, they're looking to now move that thing while it's still fresh, if we ran this special or we ran this entree, to another part of the food and beverage outlets. And so they're going to run a special over here, and then they're going to mix something with that to give it a different twist and run it over here. And so they're doing all this with, let's just say, a beef tenderloin, with the hope, it's hard to waste beef tenderloin, but let's take free-range chicken breast. They're doing this with 60 free-range chicken breasts, and they're not with the intent to not waste any of them. So to cross-utilize things and cross different departments and cross different outlets so that everything's being utilized and they're maximizing their food costs. That's what I hear when I hear you say that,
Good point.
And so a lot of efficiency. And the higher the efficiency, the more money stays in the cash register. And so that's what you've accomplished, and that's what skill. Folks, this is what doing it a while, not quitting the first time you see a ghost, because you miss out on the ability to get better and better and better. And we were talking about this, before we got on the podcast. We were talking about Tua Tagovailoa and Mike McDaniel, and I'm frustrated up the wazoo, and I'm saying, like, all right, they have to get better. They have to become more efficient. It's like we're not doubting if Tua has the talent. We're not doubting if Mike McDaniel can dial up the right schemes and the right schematics. But God bless. Could we get it done, Jared? Maybe you should be the coach of the Dolphins. Or maybe you should be the offensive coordinator at this point. I mean, because, dude, really?
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, my view, and it goes to insurance too, is like you got to be methodical. And I think it's kind of like the run game, the pass game. Be methodical, run the ball, draw them in, draw the defense in. We got to bring in the linebackers, and then bang, and you hit them over the top.
That's exactly how you run your insurance agency. That's actually
100%.
That is actually the picture. That is the Giordano way. Run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. 4 yards in a cloud of dust, and then finally, when you draw them in for the whole game, throw one over the top. And so it works.
It does.
I hate it when it comes to football. But for FFL Health and Wealth, it certainly works, man. So thank you so much for pouring in. You're doing great things, man. And so, people, if they're listening closely, not everyone needs to get to 1,500 families a year. Facts. People have different things they're shooting for. But if you can learn some efficiencies here, I think the big hot button today was efficiencies. You're insanely efficient. And some of that you came in this industry with and never utilized it in the way that you're using it. And some of it you've taught yourself as you've gone along with the industry. Before we jump off, what do you think what's the percentage of what I just said coming in with and learning and kind of moving it around as you were growing?
I think I was a organized type of a person, which helped. But I'd say for someone new, if you can create that great schedule and be efficient in that schedule, your skill set is going to get better. Because let's face facts. I wasn't like this magical insurance person, the first couple of months, and I'm not now. I put enough, it's the numbers game that we always talk about. But if you're new, if you can create the efficiency and create the time in the schedule, now the repetition is going to help you in the skill set. You know what I mean? Because nobody's coming in I don't care if you're in sales or not. This is a very different sale. It's a very different sales skill set than probably most type of sales. It's that emotional sale that most insurance agents have a tough time with. People that came in, they were selling a Cutco knife. This isn't selling a Cutco knife because there's no emotion there and there's emotion here. But the efficiency in that schedule will help give you the repetition that will help you get the skill set needed. And you said something interesting earlier. The minute something goes bad or poorly, a lot of people, they see the ghost and they run away. That's the other side of this. The good ones, they're like, all right, well, I'm just going to let that roll off my back. Tua throws a pick the first drive. He better be out there drive number 2. He should be running the ball. He's going to throw it again. And if he ran at the ball to begin with, he wouldn't have thrown the pick to begin with. But that's a whole nother story.
This is on record now. We're going to eat this one day.
Hopefully. You like that? But the point is, when you struggle, it's the repetition in the schedule just makes it okay, no big deal. What's next? Who's next? And when you win and you have success, it's always a what's next mentality. That's kind of the way I've always looked at it. It's all right, cool. I did this, great. I know I'm pretty good at it. I know the way it's kind of going to work, the good, the bad, the ugly. Let me just navigate it and kind of go on to the next thing, whether I won or whether I lost.
That's fantastic, dude. Lot to take in here, guys. Please play this one back. Steven Giordano, appreciate you, buddy, for all you do. Thank you for continually leading the way and being, number one in every category. It's fantastic to watch, and so it's going to be great to see, you at annual convention again. Now the thing is, they have to top it, and they usually find a way to top every single year. So I don't know what it's going to be like this year, but I think people should be loading up to get down there just to see that.
Yeah, you got to get to Dallas, guys. Got to get there.
Annual convention, January 31st through February 3rd. Do not miss it, down in Dallas, Texas, the Irving Convention Center. Steve Giordano, thank you so much for all you do, man. Appreciate you, buddy. Keep listening, y'all.
Appreciate you.
God bless.
Thank you.